Oh, hi. Have you just started working from home and thought to yourself, how the hell am I going to keep my team organized? And how do I know they're not just all sitting around watching The Price is Right all day when they're supposed to be working? Well, at BestSelf, we've been a fully remote company for almost 6 years now, and we've made a few in house tools that were just made in Google that help us stay accountable towards each other and also help us organize our work. We've also tried some apps and stuff in the past, but sometimes that's just a little too much, and we needed something that was simple and concise that just gave everyone visibility as to the work that's being done. And so we just wanted to share with you some of these in house tools that we've made within Google that helped us stay accountable and organized. In this video, I'm going to show you our meeting structure. This is a way that we can all contribute to our meeting, and there's not just one person talking the whole time, and it has made our meetings very efficient and with a lot of outputs. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, so this is the meeting structure that BestSelf uses for our remote team. Like I said, the BestSelf team is completely remote. And so we've created this meeting structure so that it just allows clarity and accountability to projects and tasks that come up from meetings. And so it also helps just keep the meetings as efficient as possible. And it also allows it so that anyone can bring up any topics, and there's not like one person coming up with a complete agenda. Like you might have been in some meetings where it's just like one person talking the whole time. This kind of gets rid of that, where anyone can bring up any topics. And so the one thing I do want to mention though is that there is a facilitator that's needed for the meetings. And this doesn't have to be the boss or anything like that. It's just the facilitator keeps the meeting moving. It keeps it on topic. And if there's, if we start getting too distracted or too many rabbit holes, the facilitator should bring it back to the problem that was originally brought up to make sure that we're getting what is needed from the person that's requesting the topic to be discussed. So in the how-to column here, you'll see explains all this stuff, but let me just show you how we run our meetings. And so you can see the process is all outlined here through these 7 steps. The process is the same each week, so that there's not like one person having to come up with the agenda. The process is always the same, and the team comes up with the agenda together. So the first step is just to do a check-in round. This is to kind of get focused on the meeting, also to call out any distractions, or if anyone has to leave early. So if someone has to leave early, then we know to prioritize their triage items. And also, this isn't where we give project updates or talk about things that are happening. It's more so just to get focused and also to connect as a team. Being a remote team, you want to try to connect as much as possible. So we also will sometimes do little team exercises here where we have a lot of prompts at BestSelf, and so we'll read a prompt and kind of answer it together to kind of just bond together as much as possible. And so that's the first step. And then the next step is metrics. And so these are just the KPIs that are important to whatever the meeting is. And we have a little metric tab here where you can outline the weekly, monthly, and quarterly. We have some examples here of all the how to do it. So like here's an example of what we talk about on a weekly level, and you'll see that like the links are normally URLs, but like for this example, it's just as a link. But we talk about these things in the weekly level, these things in the monthly, and this in the quarterly. So and if you start getting bogged down too much on the metrics, you might need to just turn it into a triage item so that you can discuss it more. But these first parts here, you kind of want to just hit the high points, and if there needs to be more discussion, you can add it to triage, because in the triage is where the meat of your discussion should be. These should be just the high points. So after metrics, you're going to look at project snapshot. So you can see here, project snapshot. It just outlines, and you can see there's little notes here. But this is where you outline your projects, if it has a due date, any updates, and when you last updated it. Here's an example. So you can see, like James on onboarding PR was completed. The deadline was this time. So it's just a way to kind of keep any projects that come up visible. It's easy for things to fall through the cracks, and so this is a way to keep that from happening. So, and again, if a lot of discussion starts with projects, it's best to move it to a triage just so that you can you don't get bogged down in these first parts. Again, these are just high level. After that, you look at the previous meeting's action items. And so here's an example of an upcoming meeting. Like these are triage items that are going to be discussed. And this is, you can see the date and it's red. This is last week's meeting. And you can see these are that meeting outputs and the actions. And so you can see real easily what actions have been completed, because if, say, James completes this, he can just check it off whenever he's done with it. So we would go over to the previous week's meeting, be like, oh, Monica, what's up with turning off inserts and fulfillment? And she can talk about that. Maybe she forgot to check it, or there's some kind of development that's still ongoing. So that is step 4. And again, try to keep this brief so that you can get to the meat and the potatoes right here with triage. So triage, these items are built out by anyone. You just need to put like a subject and your name so that the facilitator knows like who to call on to say like, all right, what's the thing you want to discuss? And so the triage just starts off with, the facilitator saying, okay, email campaigns, Emily, what is it you want to discuss? Emily then can go into whatever she's talking about, and if there's any outputs that come from that, then you put the outputs here. So for example, Emily, she's talking about email campaigns, and she needs updated emails from customer support. And you put a name so that that person knows that that's the task. And so this is an action, because actions, something that can be done in one step. Projects are things that can take multiple steps to complete. And also you can also make little notes to say, just so it's good, FYI, just to, it's always a good place to come back to understand what was discussed. So like emails are going out on Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And that's just, since that's a note, I'll just go over here and hit note. So that way, you can make notes of things, and you can also say, where's there a project and where's there an action? So once, the facilitator will be like, okay, Emily, you got everything you need? Yep. Let's go ahead and check that one off. Next one, web app, Rush one. And then Rush one discusses, blah, blah, blah. Rinse and repeat. Type in some things here, whatever it is that the output is. And sometimes there's not an output. Sometimes it's just discussing, or sometimes it's an update or whatever. That doesn't have to be an output, but if there is, you can outline it here. So then, all right, Rush one's done. And say anyone can have this sheet up to add something new. So if, say, I'm wanting to add something new, I'll just put my name, and then I know that my topic will get discussed at some point. And the facilitator can kind of help push that along. So say, for instance, Emily had like 10 action items, and then, James had one underneath it. The facilitator can choose to bounce around to kind of, mix it up if it's one person talking too much. And so, yeah, so again, triage, that's the gist of the triage. It's people highlighting what they want to talk about, outlining the outputs and who owns it, marking is it a note, an action, or a project. And then once all this is done, the facilitator moves it to the closing round, where you guys can just each get a chance just to talk about how the meeting went. Like you can talk about, oh, that's a really great meeting, just final thoughts, anything like that. It's just a way of bookending the meeting with connecting with the team. And so after that, that's done. And then the step 7 is just for this facilitator. So you want to, since this is a completed triage list, so the facilitator will want to create a new one of these tabs so that there's a fresh tab for next week, so people can add to it, and then also you have a record of what comes from that. So I'll just right click, duplicate. You'll see I duplicated it here. I'll move it over so that it's in the front. And also what I'll do is I'll go ahead and change the date so that it's the following week, boom, change the date here, 23, get rid of copy of. So this is next week's meeting. And what I'll do is just get rid of all this stuff. I'm going to copy those, paste them. Now this is fresh and clean, ready for next week. What I'll do to this one, as you can see, I have a meeting closed cell. I'll copy that, paste it over. You want to put a closed meeting icon here, just so that if someone comes back to the meeting, they know they're not adding triage items to the wrong date. And then what I also like to do is right click and change the color to red so that all the previous meetings are red colored tabs with a big meeting closed indicator. And so that, like I said, next week, as people are thinking of things to talk about in the meeting, they can come in here and put, new subjects. And that's it. That's how we do all of our meetings. We've been doing it for about 2 years now. We found that it's made our meetings really efficient. It makes it really clear as to what needs to be done, and also it takes the stress off of having one person. And previously, in other companies I've worked for, they've had like the boss, I'm using quotations, is the one that's coming up with all the talking points, and then this allows it so that it's the team coming up with talking points instead of one person being the driver of all of these things. So. All right, that was our meeting structure. I hope it helps you organize your meetings on a remote team. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask, all right?